This occasion obviously is a wonderful moment for the industry to reflect upon its successes over the past year. But I'm actually going to start us off this morning on a more somber note and reflect upon the failures of the industry and to warn us against what's to come in the coming year. I have been in the industry. I've worked client-facing in the first part of my career, and then I worked product-facing in the second half of my career, and now I'm owner of a failed startup. So I think it's important to talk about failure and to learn from them, because if we don't learn from our failures, we're actually not moving forward. So the subject matter of my talk this morning is Adblock is a boycott. It is the biggest boycott in human history, in fact. And we're going to talk about why this happened and how it can be attributed to the failures of big data and UX, both failing at their job. And there are 200 million people in the world blocking the ads right now. If this was a tech startup, it would be a unicorn, billion-dollar valuations. This is a massive amount of people who have decided to block the ads and everything else that's associated with it, and the publishing industry is reeling because of this. Doc Searls is the co-author of the Clue Train Manifesto and the Intention Economy, and called it the biggest boycott in human history. And you can see the hockey stick growth. This is not going anywhere. This is a huge deal. And it's a complete failure of marketing technology, because if the market was watching itself, it would have seen this coming. So this is another important quote by Doc Searls in that regard. So my agenda is to talk about what is this, how did it happen, why did it happen, what's happening now, what's going to happen next, and so on. And you may not be in the ad tech industry, you may not be in the publishing industry, but if you are in the UX industry, this is a key issue, and especially as UX becomes increasingly data-driven. This has been predicted by filmmakers. This is Idiocracy by Mike Judge, the creator of Silicon Valley, where he predicted a dystopian world without ad blockers and a culture fully surrendered to clickbait. This is the TV show Ow My Balls. Steven Spielberg presented a dystopian future where advertising, tracking, and surveillance are one and the same. We don't want this world. We are so close to this world. We are this close to this world. And especially in an age of increasing demands for increasing surveillance, we are even closer. In Mad Men, season 7, the IBM mainframe was rolled into the agency. And it was then that Don Draper knew that advertising was dead, killed by the computer. If you look at the Google trends, there is a correlation between the rising growth of ad block and other concerns. For example, we can correlate the interest in retargeting to ad blocking. The more that's retargeting, the more people download ad blockers. We can joke about it on the onion of being tracked wherever we go, but the truth is, according to Pew Research, advertising is the least trusted industry, period, by a wide margin. And in fact, the claim that advertising is anonymous is increasingly untrue as well. You are being tracked across your devices, associated with your email accounts, and personally identified. The ad tech industry is so complicated it doesn't even fit on a slide. It is a massive industry, and if you had invested in it, your stocks are plummeting because of ad blocking. It is so complicated, it is crumbling under its own weight, and in fact, it's up against not only a war of blockers, but also bots. The industry is so complicated that it is easily exploited by bad actors who profit from fraudulent traffic and click fraud. and the industry is well aware of this. And this is from a study by the Digital Content Next organization, which has determined that the more tracking that is used, the more bots exploit it. And their solution to the problem is less tracking, not more. The more these ad technologies are adopted, the more it drives ad blocking. There is a correlation. We cannot prove that it's causal, but we can certainly see a correlation. Let's look at this globally. In Europe, ad blocking has penetrated 30%. That is huge. It is up to 12% here in the United States. Let's break it down by age. If you look at just the US and the UK and you stack them together, we're already approaching nearly 30% in the English-speaking media. If we look at mobile ad blocking, which is the new thing as of last month, it's quite small. It's less than 1% here in the United States. This is attributable to the fact that most people experience online content through apps, that is, through the Facebook app, through the Twitter app, which does not yet support ad blocking. But you can see it's growing in Europe and is certainly in China and India. Now we're getting to some of the failures of UX and big data. When asked, those who ad block, there are people who would be willing to see ads, but certain kinds of ads. And you can see that the most innovative advertising is the most rejected, by far. And in fact, there is a certain amount of advertising that users will accept, and the data shows it. So these are the data dashboards that the industry is not looking at, and they need to. Another big myth is that it's just about annoying ads. But the truth is, privacy is a huge concern. In fact, it is even more significant than speed of loading. 57% of respondents believe that they're ad blocking to protect their privacy. And another myth, that young people don't care about their privacy, Pew Research disagrees. In fact, the younger you are, the more concerned you are about your privacy. And here you can see that privacy defensive behaviors are more common the younger you are. This is affecting our democracy because we get our news for free and yet it invades our privacy. How is that supposed to work? And our devices are doing it too, leaking our data all over the place. Look at this study. A significant portion of Android apps are leaking your private data without your consent or knowledge. The industry knows about this. Walt Mossberg himself has acknowledged that the price to pay is not worth it. And Jason Kint, the CEO of Digital Content Next, has been expressing his concern about this for a while now, and say that publishers are getting screwed as this happens. In fact, this is the tracking map as you visit St. Louis today, one of the most egregious offenders of ad tech. And all these companies are tracking our browsing histories and leaking it all over the place. The New York Times covered this around the same occasion that Casey Johnston wrote this important article for The All, where she described this phenomenon and warned how this will affect, ad blocking will affect independent media. And the industry itself has called for a redesign of advertising. We need advertising 2.0. This is both the US and European publisher trade groups. And in fact, this cover story in Bloomberg Business Week says that nothing that has done more harm to the internet than ad tech. Again, Doc Searles quotes Shoshana Zuboff's 3 laws. First, that everything that can be automated will be automated, everything that can be informated will be informated, and everything that will be tracked and surveyed will be without some restrictions. The IAB has admitted, and as you can see, has admitted that the dynamics of big data perverse incentives has created the problem, and yet they say that we should have control over our privacy, and yet the system that they use to do that is inherently flawed. broken. One of the worst UXs you'll ever use in your life. I would encourage you to try to opt out. This has been already compared to tobacco in the sense that it's a cancer upon the industry, and we'll look back on it as something we need to control. And there are new middlemen seizing the power of a vacuum that is occurring. So the head of Adblock Plus, the most common one, is now taking payments to let ads go through. And of course, everyone's wondering how Facebook is going to swallow advertising, publishing, and audiences in one giant gulp. Here's a study that shows the white list on Adblock Plus is growing very rapidly. And recently, Edward Snowden has recommended that everybody use ad blockers to protect their security and privacy because malware injection in ads is a huge problem. And the FBI has now said that web histories is a violation of the Wiretap Act. And Forrester has said 2016 is going to be the tipping point in privacy. And the industry better get its house in order because big things are to come. And ad blocking is going to change the way that advertising is sold. We're up for big changes. So I encourage everyone to take the blue pill, to see what this is. Now is the time to make a change and fix the industry because I love the industry, I care about it, I know we all do too, and it's up to us to fix it. So the question is, will big platforms swallow up everything? Will ad tech and media show any restraint here? Will publishers sell direct? I think they will. And will people recapture their privacy? I hope they do. Because people don't even understand what privacy is. People think it's the right to keep a secret, but actually it's the right to construct your own identity. So the UX industry should take it upon itself to do privacy by design. And we should be seeking not just big data, but big data rights. Thank you very much.